Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the SFC interviews here with former Stevenage midfielder Simon Walton today. So, how's things, Si? How's everything going?
All right. Current circumstances, but yeah, now we're still here. We're still managing to play football at the minute, which is a bonus. We're one of the lucky ones, so we shall see what the coming weeks bring. But yeah, healthy and still here, so happy days.
Absolutely, and that's the main thing at the moment. And of course, it's very difficult times, and obviously with COVID and things like that, and it's just taking its toll on footballers as well as anybody else, isn't it? So
yeah, it's been a weird situation, but as I said, we realise we're the lucky ones who can still get out there and do what we love. So long may that continue.
And let's jump into, well, as I said before, this very long interview. But yeah, what was it about Stevenage that attracted you to sign for the club in the first place?
The manager at the time. I had heard every single rumour and story going around that I'm sure you've heard and everyone else has heard. But I met him twice, I think, before I signed. And from the first minute that we met in a cafe by Harrods, of all places. There was no kind of other place I was going to go. There was a few other offers on the table at the time. I'd done okay the couple of seasons previous, so I wasn't short of offers. But it was, I have to be honest, it was the manager at the time that enticed me into it.
We've had a comment here straight away from Matt as well, which says, "Just want to say, always loved Simon's passion when he was a Stevenage player, top man and top player."
It's not a bad start.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been on for what, 1 minute, two minutes.
You want to go downhill now.
But no, I agree with that as well. You could see your passion there in the centre of midfield all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There was plenty of us like that at the time. There was a few of us. I wasn't the only one, but yeah, that's one thing I always had.
So you made your debut actually away to Southend. I don't know how much you remember about that game and when you knew you'd be involved.
I missed the first 2 or 3 games of the season from a previous suspension from the season before, which wasn't ideal. I'd played all the games in pre-season, scored a fair few goals, I seem to remember. And then to miss the first couple of weeks of the season, I think it was 3 games, was a little bit, knocked me back a little bit. And then the Southend game probably couldn't have gone any worse if it had tried. Obviously, my mate, one of my good mates, did his knee in the first seconds, I think. I think it was from our kickoff. Obviously, the ball went forward and Harry Worley did his knee badly. So that was a bad start, and it got worse. And I think it was 2 or 3-0 in the end. And I was dreadful. I think the team was dreadful on the day. And yeah, that was my first game back. I think obviously I'd been made captain at the time. It was getting spread around a bit. So yeah, it wasn't the best to start, shall we say, put it that way.
And you were brought in by Graham, as you said before. So what was it like to sort of play and train under his leadership?
It was hard, not going to lie to you. It was hard. The stories that I'd heard and been told were exaggerated. We worked hard, we were fit, we were very organised, we knew what we were doing. And like I said, he was the main reason that I signed for the club. And I won't say a bad word about him, and still have the odd conversation now and again. We've nearly linked up twice, but it's not just quite happened. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, like I said, it was a lot of hard work, but it was probably the fittest. It was certainly the lowest body fat that I've probably ever had. Yeah, it was good for my beach body, but it was just a shame how it ended. Really, it really was a shame for not just me, but I think the club in general. That was kind of the start of a turbulent few years, looking from the outside in.
Absolutely, yeah. And you made your debut in that game against Southend. You were partnering Charlie Lee. So, what was that like to play alongside Charlie Lee as well? 2 very different kind of midfielders.
Yeah, I mean, I think I played in a team. I almost played in the same position, but I think I played in a team with Charlie throughout that season. We played in every single position. So that was probably the closest I ever had him to me. But Charlie was brilliant that season. I think he might have been top scorer, I believe.
I'm sure he was, yeah.
And then he was the type of player who could do a job wherever you put him. I mean, I think in the playoffs he played centre half in one of the games due to injuries. But yeah, I mean, we had such a a good group and a bond going. But yeah, to play with Chaz, and he's another player that I still speak to now and again now, and we have our little WhatsApp groups and stuff still going. So yeah, it was good. It was good fun, put it that way. As you can probably imagine from the outside, there was never a dull moment with Charlie.
Absolutely, yeah. I know. I spoke to Charlie. Charlie was actually, I think, about my second stream that I'd done, and this one is like number 57 now, so it was a while ago.
Yeah. Did you get a word in, or did he ask you all the questions? Because normally it's him who does all the talking.
No, it was good. It was good fun. Yeah. Got quite a bit out of him. So yeah. So you've actually scored a couple of goals for the club. I think only one of them was not a penalty as well, if I remember rightly. But that was a good enough one in itself. It was a last-minute winner. So were you always sort of the designated penalty taker, or was that something that just kind of came about in training and you kind of just put your name in for it?
No, it was one of the reasons that I was approached to sign. Obviously, our team's built around set pieces. We were successful from set pieces, and it's something that I kind of had always done from the previous 5 or 6 years at my previous club. So that was one of the reasons, again, why I was brought in. I mean, I think in pre-season I scored 2 penalties and scored 2 free kicks. So
yeah,
it was. I mean, obviously they don't count towards the total, but yeah, the whole season I did all right from penalties, free kicks, etc. But yeah, the one that I will always remember is for differing reasons. But yeah, Northampton at home, I think that ruined their playoff chances and cemented ours, and it was the last kick of the game. So yeah, that was nice.
And even the Southend game as well. I know you scored a penalty in that game, the 4-2 at the Lamex at Broadhill Way, and that pretty much ruined their automatic chances as well, didn't it? So.
Yeah, that was, and I was going through a little spell at that time. I think I gave away 3 penalties in 3 games, so I owed us one. So obviously, I'd given away the penalty that I think Barry Corr scored, and then luckily, little Kenners got tripped up not too long after, and I put that one in. So yeah, it was a sigh of relief. But yeah, I remember that was a good day where I finished with a headband. Not to keep my hair out my eyes, but I think I'd got a cut eye in the first half or something. So yeah, there's a nice picture that I've got with a headband, my armband, and the ball under my arm. So that was nice.
And you said about that you were captain as well. So what was that like to obviously captain the side and to you've got that leadership about you, the leadership qualities?
We had loads of captains. I mean, I think Ronnie was club captain overall for the season. I think he wore the armband most of the times. But yeah, I was quite lucky that if Ronnie was injured or the start of the season, it got kind of swapped around a little bit. So yeah, it's always nice to wear an armband and be given that opportunity and that trust that the manager believes in you. But like I said, and that group, and Graham used to say it himself, there was 11, 12 captains in that group, and it certainly wasn't just one voice. There was plenty of leaders. So to be given the armband was nice, but it is only a piece of rubber or elastic, whatever it is on the day. It won't ever change a proper captain.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Ronnie there as well. Ronnie, I spoke to probably just before Christmas, I think it was, and he's just the epitome of Stevenage Football Club, isn't he? The fact that he can go to Luton and still come back and be as loved as he is.
Yeah, I still speak to Ronnie. We played against Billericay just before Christmas too, and I give him plenty of stick from the sideline. He still runs exactly the same, still moans all the time. But Ronnie's just one of those characters in football that unfortunately you probably don't get many more like that. And we had a few of them during that time. And yeah, for him still to be going at 48 or 49 or whatever he is now, playing week in, week out and doing very well at the same time, he's a proper character, and he was a proper leader in that dressing room.
I don't think he's quite that old, but yeah.
He'll tell you he feels it, trust me. He'll tell you he feels it.
I think this has actually been, last season anyway, or the last time that Billericay actually had a full season. I think that was his top ever goal scoring season or something as well.
Yeah, every time I looked at the scores, he'd scored a last minute winner.
Yeah.
He took his shirt off in one of the games. He still see his ribs. Still had an ounce of body fat on him, yeah. So that was,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Lucky him.
And obviously he's still involved at Stevenage as well with the academy, isn't he? So
yeah, no, he's another, obviously an Ash is still there as well. So to have people like that around the place still will hopefully get the club back to kind of where it was going at one stage.
And of course, we just spoke about it off stream with Tom Pett as well, who was part of that team. He actually scored against Southend in the playoffs as well, didn't he? And he's now made the return back to the club again. And did that sort of surprise you at all that he, chose Stevenage when he, probably even himself could have actually gone to League One, League Two, League One sort of higher ended League Two teams rather than a team that's kind of struggling at the bottom end of League Two?
Yeah, I mean, footballers sometimes like home comforts. I know that might sound daft, but he was happy. He found it's probably the first real foot on the ladder for his career. He's gone on to do very well, but sometimes when you might have not had the best of times, or you hit a bit of a rough patch in your career, sometimes him coming home to a club where he felt happy and felt appreciated might do him the world of good. So I am just glad that he's back playing football, because I think he had a little, obviously, spell out, but Patty was he was brilliant. I think it was his first season that he'd come there from Wealdstone, where he looked he looked like a 12-year-old little boy. I thought he was someone's son on the first day I turned up. He performed like a man in the games, and I think by his own admission, he probably played a lot more and performed a lot better than he was expected to in such a short space. But no, I'm pleased for him, and he's another great lad and great character that we had during that time.
And talking of trouble, here's the one we were talking about off stream. I won't ask that question. I won't tell her the answer to the question that we were talking about.
Yeah,
But no, with Tom as well. I was speaking to him earlier about, obviously he's come back from training today. They were actually training at Ware today because of the snow and stuff as well. And he's still, we're saying that he moans the most about having to go and train in the snow. So
yeah, naturally. I mean, he'll be buzzing because it's close to his house probably. So yeah, he's all right. But nah, he's another lad that I used to speak to quite a bit. But as is football, you lose touch. But no, I'm pleased for him, and hopefully he can kind of get back and have a few more years at that level and above.
And so we went on a very good unbeaten run as well to get into the playoffs, didn't we? And one of those games was actually against the former side of yours, Plymouth. And what was it like to play against them? And of course, we went on and we've done really well towards the end of that season to sneak into the playoffs, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, we started terribly. I think we were shocking the first couple of months. Not shocking, but we were certainly in the bottom quarter, bottom third of the table. And it took a real kind of turnaround in mentality and a couple of additions. And yeah, we went on a run. And I think we all between us at the end of the season felt a little bit deflated that we'd not kind of gone up automatically, because at one point no one could stop us. We were flying. We were just winning game after game without even thinking about it. And then towards the end of the season, we got a few injuries and different things. But yeah, to play against Plymouth that season I'd not left there. I think I'd left the season before or whatever. And obviously me being previous captain there, and that it was good. But I think they were in the playoffs, so they were around it at the same time. And then we beat them in, I think Bruno scored in the 92nd or 93rd minute to beat them at home, after they'd scored in the 92nd and 93rd minute to get an equaliser when we played them at home park. So yeah, over the course of the season, to get 4 points against a team like that was good. But I remember Plymouth, as they always do, it was a Tuesday night, and they sold out the away end, and I got a half decent reception for a change. So that's nice.
Good then as well with the Plymouth fans. I actually had a question from a Plymouth fan earlier as well, in regards to what was it like to sign for Plymouth and have that kind of hefty price tag on you as well, on your shoulders?
It didn't go particularly well to start with, without boring everyone with the details, and going in as a 20, 21-year-old to be, I said before, the record signing, still am to this day, and be paraded around like the Pope had come to town. I mean, it was exciting for me at the time, but I don't think it did me any good with the pressure on my shoulders. Although I looked older at the time, I was still only a baby at 20, 21 to move to a club with the expectation. But it started off poorly and finished on a plus point. So that's all I can say on that one.
And with Stevenage as well, it's the complete opposite, because actually you signed for Stevenage on a free transfer, didn't you? So you didn't have that added pressure on top.
Yeah, it was a free transfer-ish. So it was. There was no. You say no pressure when when you sign for Stevenage with Graham, there's always pressure because you've got to be successful. Not bad pressure, good pressure, which was one of the plus points to me, and still why I respect him as a manager and a man today. I coach his son now and again at this school, so I see it in Joe as well as his dad. So yeah, that was good.
Does his dad have to call him medal winner as well, or?
No, I'm not sure about that one.
Was it just the boys?
I still get asked that one, and I said I can guarantee you I never called him that. I don't know what anyone else called him. Yeah, 1,000,000%, I never called him that. But yeah,
fair enough. Just gaffer to you, yeah.
Just gaffer, yeah, gaffer or boss.
So we touched on that there as well. Getting into that playoff campaign there when we played Southend, and did you believe that we could have actually gone on and beaten them over the 2 legs?
Yeah, I think everybody did. I think at the time we'd, like I said, we'd gone on an unbelievable run over the second, kind of the last half, maybe just before halfway stage of the season, and I think at the time, if you'd have asked neutrals who their money was on to go up, I think it would have been us at the time, which obviously came back to bite us in the ass. But the second leg was just, I've never kind of witnessed anything like that. There was people going down left, right and centre. I think we ended up with 9 players due to injuries.
Yeah.
It was just, I think I played in 4 positions, just trying to fill gaps at times. I played all over. So it ended badly, really badly. But I think what made it worse for some of us and most of us is we knew what was coming next. I don't think, not sure if anybody else did, but we knew between an older group of players what was coming next. So that made it a double blow, obviously, with what happened after that.
And that was, of course, Graham was sacked when he was relieved of his duty. So yeah. Yeah,
it was a weird few days. It was weird. Like I said, we knew. I think the day after, I'm not sure if this is a secret or what, but I think we played on a Tuesday or Wednesday at 9:30 the next morning. Me, John Ashton, Ronnie Henry, Chris Day, Beardo, and a few of us got the train into London and had a few beers, shall we say. So we finished it off in style, but it was just a real weird situation because we knew that we'd done well over the course of the season. We'd done better than people expected, but when the kind of cull came, so to speak, and what happened, it was a little bit of an eye-opener at the time, and it hit a few people hard. So we went out, we all got together and had a little farewell party, shall we say.
Didn't fancy having it at the Cricket Billet, no?
Nah. I mean, going out less than 12 hours after you just lost the playoff semi-final wasn't ideal, so we thought we'd stay out of the way. But yeah, it was. We thought we'd earn it, and because of what was going on, we had a little blowout. But that was a very good group of people, very good, not just footballers, but it was a great group of people to be around at the time.
And sort of, do you have any regrets looking back on that season as well regarding the playoff campaign? And do you wish that you could have had the opportunity to maybe stay on and have another season or 2 after?
Yeah, I'd have loved to. I've said this before to people. Obviously, Jake, my brother-in-law, whatever, was there for 6 months last year and always asks. And it's probably from a football side of view in the setup, it was as professional as 3/4 of the championship teams that I'd played for. The training ground, the way we were looked after with regards to travelling, hotels, supplements, food after games, all the little things. But the actual football side of things was one of the most professional run clubs I've been at. I mean, I've had a few, but it was certainly in the top 3 or 4 with how we were looked after, and we were given every tool to perform, and we just fell up short. So I would have loved to have stayed, and I just felt the next season, if we'd have kept everything the same with a couple of additions, we'd have come back even stronger.
And you were saying there just about your brother-in-law as well. So that was Jake. Was that Jake Cassidy?
Yeah.
So did you have conversations with him regarding the club as well? Or?
Yeah, obviously Graham had taken back over for the 12th time or whatever it was. So he'd come back, and like I said, we kept in touch sporadically when I'd left, and again, I nearly signed for 2 or 3 of the clubs he was at afterwards with him, but never came. So yeah, he spoke to me about Jake, and obviously Jake spoke to me about the club because he was enjoying it where he was, and he didn't want to upset the apple cart. But I told him, I said, look, you've got to go. How I found it, and for what it did for me, and how much I enjoyed it, and working with Graham, I said it'll be ideal, and obviously that went to pot. So he'll never listen to me again. But yeah, from my own experiences, I'll only ever say good things about the place and the people around there.
All right, and you mentioned before about Ronnie and Daisy and Ash, and even some of that other coaching staff that were there with Graham, the likes of Dino as well. Dino was obviously in charge for a while, wasn't he? And he had it very difficult with the time that he was there. First time out, first season, he got him on the verge of the playoffs, and then to kind of start off the second season, he had a lot of injuries to deal with. And it was very much like that group that you had, where you were having players having to play out of position for the first month of the season or whatever it was before he got sacked.
Yeah, no, like you said, we had good staff. Dan Doe, the physio, Dan, the sports scientist, fitness coach, whatever you call him. We were well staffed, put it that way. Obviously, big Dave Besant as well used to light up the place when he came in. There was never a dull moment with Dave. And we had Jace, who's doing well at Sutton now, who I used to speak to and see quite a bit. And obviously Dino, who's I think he's the assistant manager at Burton now.
And Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
With Jimmy.
Talking of Big Jace as well. Big Jace is actually my next one. I'm speaking to Jace on Wednesday night. So
nice. Pass on my best.
Will do.
Jace is brilliant, and ask him about the time he played in goal in a 5-a-side and got knocked out with a ball in the face. That's a story for him to tell you.
I will do, pal. I'll ask him that. Yeah,
he's brilliant, Big Jace, and between the staff that we had, again, I'm not bigging it up. You can ask most players that were there. The group of players and staff that we had was very good. It was an enjoyable time most of the time. The hard work, enjoyable.
And do you know much about Alex Revell, the guy that's in charge now, the manager that's in charge? Have you come up against him at all?
I've played against Revs many a times. I probably had to shield him from goal kicks where he gets his elbows and knees and that in my back. But yeah, again, Jake was with him and said only spoke highly of him. I think it's his first job or whatever. So I wish him all the best. And it's nice when you see players kind of take that next step. That's what I'm aiming to do now, what I'm looking to do, and climb my way up the ladder. So when you see players like that, and people have only ever said nice things about him, I hope it goes well and wish him all the very best.
And he's got some good people around him as well. Not just Ash, as we were saying before. He's got Mark Sampson's on there as well on that coaching staff, and the main one is Dean Wilkins, who has come in fairly recently, and that there's been quite a bit of an upturn in form by the weekend actually since Dean came in as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a hell of an experienced staff team. I don't think it's just the manager anymore. I think a manager is the team around him as well. So for him to have that experience, obviously, Mark's coached at world level. Dean's been there, seen it all, and Ash is Ash. He's been there. He knows what the club's like inside out. He knows what it takes to be successful. So there won't be many better experienced and know-how management teams in that league. Let me tell you.
Absolutely, that's a good little management team that they've got together. I'll come on to those sort of Leeds questions at the end if we do have time or anything. I don't want to make it too much about that. But yeah, so you mentioned before that you played alongside Ben Kennedy as well. So what was it like to play alongside him? Was it a little bit frustrating at times, or?
No, I mean I can only speak about Kenners from the time I was there. What happened afterwards, you hear this, that, and the other, but that's not really what I'm going to speak about. He came. We used to play 11v11s on a Thursday against the youth team. So Sally would bring a youth team up, and we'd play against the youth team with the shape that we thought we were going to play on a Saturday. And he first came to everybody's attention, I think, when he just started running around booting people. Kids come up and are a little bit timid. He was playing left wing, centre mid, and he'd rat into tackles. And I think we had David McAllister, and I think he once got up and they had a little set to, and I think everyone sat back and went, "No, he's got a bit." Not only that, he was a very good intelligent player. And then we had Hartlepool away, which was my old club, and I think that was his first start, and he scored 2 goals, and he was brilliant that day. But I used to pick him up every morning. Once he came, obviously, from down the bottom up to the first team training ground. I was staying in Biggleswade at the time, and his digs were in Biggleswade, so I used to have to get on the phone to him every morning and pick him up. So yeah, I spent quite a bit of time with him, and I can only speak about the time when I was with him, and I thought he was going to go on and have a hell of a career, but I'm not sure what's happened since, but you never know.
And Russ there has put in a question as well. Who was the best player that you played with at Stevenage, and why? Is Kenners in that bracket, or?
Kenners was an exciting talent. I wouldn't say he was the best player. He was the one that him and Petty, I probably thought, were going to go on and do better than where we were at the time.
Yeah.
Best player, I can only probably, and I hope he don't hear me because I'll never hear the end of it, but I think for that season, I think Charlie was brilliant. I do. Again, I'll go back to it. He played in every position going, did well in every position going. So I think for that season.
Yeah, because Charlie, you played right back, you played centre back, you played right mid, centre mid, up front. Yeah, anyway, I think the only place he didn't play was in goal.
Yeah, well, he'd have done well to get in ahead of Daisy that year because he was a man possessed. I think he won the Player of the Year. So as far as goalkeepers go, there's not many better than Daisy was that year. He was brilliant, even in the playoff semi-final. I mean, the last 15, 20 minutes was like the Alamo, and he half kept us in it with a chance. But yeah, it's hard. There was no. I don't mean this to sound disrespectful. There was no real standout players. We were just all organised, know our jobs, and you knew what you were going to get week in, week out. Mm-hmm. I mean, Dean Parrott had a spell where he looked like he was a championship player, but
that goal against Southend as well. I spoke to him about it. It was a screamer, wasn't it? About 25, 30 yards out. Yeah.
He had all the ability in the world. He really did, but he needed the players that were there around him to kind of help him out. So ability-wise, he was right up there as well. But unfortunately, again, it just kind of petered out for him a little bit at the minute. But yeah, there was no real standouts where you go, he was brilliant. There was just a lot of very good characters and players who knew what they were doing at the time.
And talking to that, we're talking about that Southend game again as well. I've got to mention your midfield battle with Tim. So what was that like to come up against Tim then? And that head collision as well was just insane, wasn't it?
I mean, I've never witnessed or heard a noise like that on a football pitch in my life. Them few seconds went in slow motion. You could see it coming, and I think everyone's going, no.
Yeah.
And you just saw them do it, and then how either of them got up and even bothered to try and play football after that, I've got no idea. But yeah, that kind of sums Tim's up. He's a warrior. He's a nutter. But yeah, he was a warrior. In the second leg, he scored. He had a rugby helmet on, and he was very good. I think he got in Team of the Year of the league that year, and it was just how he came back to play after that injury 3 or 4 days later was beyond me. But yeah, Tim's, like I say, I saw him a few weeks ago when we played Dulwich in the league. Mm-hmm. And he's a great guy, but yeah, he's got a screw loose. So that's probably helped him play in the
And he came to Stevenage after that as well, didn't he? So yeah,
he was another one. He's one of those players that when you play against him, you probably even though I knew him, you probably hate him as a manager and a player from the opposition. But when he's in your team, you appreciate him a bit more.
Absolutely, and he's another kind of sort of midfielder to you, very sort of dogged in the tackle, not shying away from that side of it, and just love to get a foot in and get involved.
Yeah, he was a little bit quicker than me. I won't lie. He was a little bit nippier, but yeah, we were very similar, and we had many battles, whether it be Swindon or wherever he's played, Southend, Stevenage. We've had a few, but Tim's a great guy. And
then we spoke about Alex Ravel, but what was your relationship like with the chairman, Phil Wallace, as well? Did you have any dealings with him? The times you were out injured and stuff like that.
Sure. No, not really. Phil was always around. It's hello, but he kind of kept himself to himself, which good chairmen do. We had a couple of in-depth conversations. I remember one particular conversation where me, him, and Graham sat in Graham's office and discussed my poor form at the time. And he's a very educated, down-to-earth kind of man. He didn't try and talk football tactics with me. He was more try and get you going mentally from what a person needs. So he was good when I was there. Like I say, he looked after me. When we signed, he was there. He was seemed quite excited, and then we had the odd conversation, and he wasn't afraid to give you a kick up the arse, put it that way. But yeah, as far as chairman go, I had no issues with him.
And we'll touch on the relationship that you had with the Stevenage fans as well. So, what was that relationship like? And for the players like you to obviously step out on the pitch there at the Lamex and, take the Tuesday night game, for example, when you got the Lamex Stadium as it is with the East Terrace in full voice and, the drum and just kind of rocking. It obviously got around a lot to the atmosphere, isn't it? Which kind of players are missing out on right now.
Yeah, I think that's what helped us a lot. The noise that the fans kind of produced, coupled with our improved performances. It's the same. Fans will always say, well, give us something to shout about, and players will always say the fans were quiet. So it's a vicious circle. If you're playing well, the fans will be loud. It's simple. So we were getting the results, and it was becoming a bit like a carnival atmosphere. Like you said, I remember the Southend game 4-2, and Kenner's running down the line, and when he scored the third or fourth, whatever it was, and obviously the Northampton game to score in the last minute and do my little celebration in front of the fans was nice. But yeah, they were good. Obviously throughout the season, there was quite a good little bond going on between players and fans, and we had our moments. There was ups and downs, but such is football. That's no one's ever going to get on all of the time. But yeah, it was like I said, I can only look back on my time there with positive thoughts.
And of course, that's something that's missing right now, as I just touched on there at the end of that question as well. So, how soon do you think that fans might be able to get back into these stadiums again? Or, it's a massive impact at the moment on everybody, of course, with this coronavirus. And it's kind of a team like Stevenage, where they are at the moment, sort of struggling towards the bottom end of the table. If there's fans in there for a home game, take tomorrow against Culture, so it really can push them over the line to turn a point into 3, can't it, or 9 into 1 or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we kind of got teased a little bit. I'm not sure what happened down there, but we were allowed like a couple of thousand fans into the ground for I think 2 games before they took it away again. And just the feeling it gives players, not even necessarily the singing and the atmosphere, but just walking into a ground, seeing people eating a burger or having a bovril or a coffee, it feels like a proper game of football. I'm not going to say it's hard to get motivated, because it shouldn't be, and it's not hard to get motivated, but just that feeling of Saturday at 3 o'clock or Tuesday at 7:45, whatever it is, of seeing fans and that noise, you can't replace it, no matter whether that's 2,000, 3,000 or the big dogs who play in front of 40, 50,000. You can't replace that feeling, and no matter what team talks you give or how motivated you try and make players, it'll never be the same as having fans there. And we all understand why, as football people, as human beings, we understand why. But the sooner we can get back to some sort of normality, I mean, I'm pretty sure there won't come a day where everyone just opens their turns. So it'll be gradual, I'm sure. But yeah, just to see a little bit of normality resuming to football will be nice.
And I touched on Kenneth before, but who was the sort of most noticeable player coming through the ranks at that time? Was it Ben, or was there a few others as well?
I think Kenneth was the one, because he was the one who was in the first team the most and had the most impression on our results as the first team. But obviously there was others. There was Joe and Gesson, who went out on loan and ended up going to QPR under 21s and playing. And then there was Fajiri, whose surname I'm still not going to try and pronounce.
Okanabiri. Yeah.
Yeah, you're better than me at that. But yeah, he's obviously gone out and had to take a step back. he always had something. I'm not going to say it was obvious to see back then, because it really wasn't, but he always had a little something. And obviously now he's playing for Doncaster week in, week out, and he's made a career for himself. So there was a couple around. Ryan Johnson, obviously the centre half, who's now at Hartlepool, I believe, was around that age. So there was a few.
Went on to, did he go and have trials with Man United?
That was what we were led to believe, yes. At one stage he was training with the first team with us, and then he went away somewhere for a few weeks. What happened, I'm not too sure. It was a long time.
Apparently it was Man United, yeah.
Fair enough.
Let's have a look. We've got a question from Tom. Would you consider going into management once you've retired from football? Well, you have had a little caretaker spell as a manager, haven't you? So,
yeah, I would love to. It's something that I want to do. It's something that if you'd have asked me probably around the time I was at Stevenage, if you'd have said, "Do you want to be a manager?" I'd have probably screwed my face up and said, "I'm not sure it's for me."
Yeah.
But as you get older, and like I say, the last 3 years I've been a coach. I've been a first team coach, and at Maidstone I had the 8 games where I was caretaker manager. So yeah, it's something that I definitely want to do. I'm enjoying the coaching. I said in an interview the other day that someone asked me if I miss playing, and at the minute, not particularly. No, I really enjoy what I'm doing. So
I read that interview as well, or listened to it. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
it's what I want to do. It's what I'm working towards. I've got my B license. I'm halfway through my A license. So yeah, there's stuff you got to do, but there's about 1 million other people who want to do it at the same time. So you've got to get your lucky break, or you've got to find that person who believes and trusts in you, like Revs obviously has. He's was there as a player, and he's obviously put himself in well with people there and shown to be a good leader, and he's got a job. So
absolutely, yeah.
Something similar would be nice, but
I'm sure it'll go on and do well, as you will, I know as well. Yeah. So have you been able to follow the club much upon leaving? Of course, you mentioned in regards to Jake, as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we left the season after, I was still after 2 seasons, we were still in the same league. So when I was at Crawley, so obviously came across a couple of games. I think we won them all. Or Crawley won them all, should I say.
Yeah.
But you keep an eye on. And then when Jake was there, I went to a few of the games with my sister. And when Jake first met Graham, I think it was the GW versus Dino grudge match that I went to as the first one that was anything but that. So yeah, I've been along to a couple of games and seen a new stand and that. So yeah, it's changed a little bit since I was there, but no, it's a club that's got all the foundations to do really well, and if they can get back to that League One where they were at one point, that'd be brilliant.
And Tom, there was another question in, I should say as well. What's your biggest achievement in football?
My biggest single achievement is playing for Leeds at 16. I think I'm still the 3rd youngest ever player to play for a club like that. So that will always be my single biggest achievement. But if I was to write a sentence, my biggest achievement is to still have managed to have played the 500 games that I did through things that I went through. I mean, everyone's been through stuff in football, but to have hung in there for as long as I did took quite a bit of mental strength and body strength in the end. So yeah, that'll be my biggest achievement.
And the club, going back to Stevenage, were able to remain in the Football League due to the ongoing issues with Macclesfield and their financial problems that they had. How big was that for a club like Stevenage to remain in the league? Obviously, with the clubs that there are in the surrounding area, the likes of Watford, Luton, and then obviously even into London as well, the Premier League teams around that area.
You've only got to look at the teams that are in the National League now. I mean, I've been in it for 2 years, and the likes of Wrexham's, Notts County's, Hartlepool's, who else is around there? Barnet's, teams like that, who you think, they'll get back. And it's not that easy. Let me tell you, it's not that easy at all. I think it took Tranmere, a massive club, a few years to get back up. I might be wrong.
Barnet are struggling. Barnet towards the foot of the table, yeah. Yeah,
Barnet, teams like that. It's really, really not easy to get back up. There's no quick fix. And the amount of work that has to go into it off the field to cut budgets, people's livelihoods, obviously players, staff, whether that be office staff, whatever, there has to be budget cuts because there's not the same money. It's not rocket science. You get relegated out of the Football League, you lose out on grants, which we've found out this week. You lose out on a lot of money. So for a club to get that reprieve that Stevenage did was massive. But again, that comes from looking after a football club, right? Whether it was right or wrong football-wise, that's debatable. People will always debate it. But from a moral point of view, if you spend what you can and you don't put people's livelihoods at risk like Macclesfield did, then you deserve the lucky break that you get. Absolutely.
I think I probably would largely agree with that as well. Not just as a Stevenage fan, because obviously I'm sort of bound to, but from that sort of perspective, Phil was always running it the right way, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how a football club sustains and not goes from up and down week in, week out. We've all seen it, and you see stories and hear stories now of some of the bigger clubs who aren't paying players, who like some Derby, etc. And it's a tough time for everyone. But if you run and look after a football club well, eventually you get your rewards, which, to be fair to Phil and the club, they have had over times with the FA Cup games, playoff wins, etc. So hopefully it won't be too long before they have them good moments again.
And going back to yourself, have you always been involved in football from a young age, sort of school teams and that type of stuff, or?
Yeah, it's all I ever knew. It's all I was ever going to do. I think I was 8. No, I wasn't. I was 9-year-old when I went to Hull City as a kid, the Centre of Excellence. Got released at 11 because they cut a lot of their younger teams, so I was too young to go into the under-12s, and then dropped on my feet by going on trial at Leeds and signing there at the age of 10 or 11. So yeah, I've always been around academy or centre of excellence football as it is. So I was one of the lucky ones that knows what it takes to go literally from being there at an under 9, under 10 to get to the first team. But there's so many different routes that players are going into football now, and I was one of the lucky ones that if I hadn't have had football from a young age, I don't know what I would have done, to be honest.
And so who was it that you supported, growing up, and who was it that inspirations that kind of got you into football as well?
My inspiration will always be my dad, my mum and dad. He used to take me to Ellen Road as a 4-year-old. We had season tickets, me, my mum, dad, brother and sister. So he used to take me to Ellen Road. He used to take me to away games now and again, the ones where we weren't likely to get bottles from others. But yeah, he used to drive hundreds of miles to training, to games. We're at Leeds, you'd be playing Sunderland or Blackburn away at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Like, it wasn't back then, like we didn't get coaches like these clubs do now. Even at a young age, we were driven everywhere, and he was the one that really kind of inspired me and kept driving me on. But from a football point of view, it's no secret I was a massive Leeds fan, still am, and my favourite players were David Batty and Gary Speed and Lucas Radibi. So I was quite lucky that I grew up around those players, seeing them day in, day out, and I got to train and even play with a couple of them. So,
and Russ has put in a question there as well, but I want to actually just skim over that in a minute. But you mentioned Gary Speed in there as well, and actually, there's quite a lot going on around at the moment in football with the coronavirus and the COVID pandemic in regards to the mental health aspects of it. So, what are your sort of feelings regarding that? And did you ever have anybody at Stevenage who would kind of be that mental health or sort of advisor on that side?
No, I mean, with the Gary Speed thing, I was at Sheffield United when he was first team coach a few months before what happened. And all I will say, and what scared me the most is, and people say it all the time, you would have had no clue whatsoever. I mean, I didn't speak to him. I worked with him every day, but you wouldn't have had one minimum clue that what he was going through in his head. Obviously, he was happy-go-lucky. Every day he had a smile. You just thought that he had everything from the outside. He was a legend in his own right and in everybody's eyes. So you just never know what people are going through. And now, as me being a coach, you try and look a little bit at play. Not a little bit. That's a lie. You look a lot at players' welfare rather than kind of telling them to get tighter to the winger or try and get on the half turn more. A lot of it in football now is around players' welfare and what state of mind they're in, and are they positive, are they in a negative mood, has something changed in their life that's going to affect them. And it's become a massive part. I think it's become a lot, not fashionable, I don't want to use the word fashionable, but it's become a lot more acceptable to speak about it, I think. Still a long way to go, don't get me wrong, and you read cases and hear of cases every day, especially in this tough time. Forget football, just in general, is tough time. But I think it is becoming a little bit more acceptable and accepted that you can talk about it, and there's people out there who are willing to help you. I think within football, we've still got to be better with it. I think there's still got to be designated jobs for players' welfare. I mean, I think probably at the top Premier League clubs there is, but you need them everywhere. You've got to have a confidant who you feel you can go and talk to, or you can go and vent with, or you're not in any fear that it's going to come back and bite in the ass with regards to team selection or anything like that. I do think we've got to be a little bit better, but just speaking from a coach's point of view now, and being on courses, etc., the mental side and welfare of players is becoming such a big thing, and it's probably overtaking the actual tactical side of football a little bit now, which is fine, because if you get the tactics wrong, it's not going to upset anyone. But if someone's not in the right mental state, then that can have long-term effects. So we've got to do more, I think, in football as an organisation, but it's getting a lot better.
And yeah, I have to agree with that as well. And just go over to Russ's comment. He put in a comment there in regards would you consider doing some punditry in the future? And also Laura put in Gary Speech, one of my favourite ever Leeds players. Yeah, he was an exceptional player, and not even just for Leeds, but for Wales as well. Yeah,
he was just, and again, I say it a lot now. He was just an unbelievable human. Forget football player, he was still joining in training at 43 and doing exactly what he did when I watched him play for Leeds at Sheffield United. But just as a human, as a person, you speak to anyone, he was like I said, that word legend, but he actually was and still is a legend of the game.
And Russ's question there, would you consider doing any punditry work in the future for, maybe Sky or whoever it may be, BT or whoever?
I'm not sure I'll get on Sky when you see some of the names that are on there. I might be a little bit far down the pecking order. I've interviewed. I've done commentary on games for various BBCs around the country for the 25 million different clubs that I've played for. So I've been quite lucky that people seem to remember me, and I get asked to do it quite a bit. I did BBC Radio Leeds for 3 seasons whenever I could, but it's tough because I don't, that's not my career. That I don't want to do that. I know people love it. It's not what I want to go down, but doing it on the side and doing stuff like this and being nasty comments on a game, it's always nice. I find it nice. I got asked to do a Leeds versus Crawley a little bit the other day.
Oh, the FA Cup side, yeah.
Cup, and I had to do a little montage for that and an interview. And when you do stuff like that as a player, I love it. It just brings memories back, but it also brings you a little sense of kind of realization of what you've done. So I will always look to do it, but it's not kind of an avenue I want to go down with my career. But
you've got enough going on anyway. I was just going to touch on that now, but you've not only gone on to be caretaker manager where you've had that spell there. You do the stuff with the academy at Chelsea and the coaching with Eton College as well, and your own football business. So you've got plenty going on there.
Yeah, it's. I think that's helped again this transition from being an older player or a player coming to the end of his playing career. I've kept myself busy with sorting my next step out. I've not stopped and gone, oh no, what do I do now? I was quite clever that I set up little bits and pieces and got fingers in different pies before I stopped playing, which I don't think enough people kind of look into. So yeah, I'm quite lucky and I'm quite enjoying where I'm going at the minute. I feel like I'm not little 15, 16-year-old kid starting out again, but in a whole different career. So yeah, there's there's things going on in the background that I'm quite excited about, and yeah, I've been quite lucky that I've kind of managed to manage that transition from playing to not playing anymore quite well, and I've still got the same buzz and excitement.
And just mentioned there about the stuff that you do working with the Chelsea Academy. Have you had many dealings with Jamie Cumming, who's obviously Stevenage goalkeeper now?
No, I mean, like I said, I've been there for I've been there 2.5 years now. I knew people there again when I kind of stepped out of the Football League and went into non-league with Sutton. It was something that I was quite lucky that I knew people there and managed to worm my way in somehow. So yeah, it's enjoyable, and you see some of the players coming in and players that come and go, and I go and watch the 16s, 18s, 21s now, and the standard then to when I was 16 is a bit different, shall we say? But yeah, so I've just started working. Jimmy Smith's just started working there, doing something alongside what I do. Obviously, another ex-Stevenage player.
Yeah, another Stevenage midfielder, former Stevenage midfielder. Yeah,
player I've known for years and years. So yeah, it's just getting kind of, like I said, that next step, that next foot on the ladder. But it's an unbelievable club to work at, and the news today hasn't gone down.
Yeah, with Frank Lampard. Touch on that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it, and we had a nice long Zoom meeting just before I got on here to you. So it's the new way of the world that you can talk through a computer screen now. So yeah, a bit different.
Absolutely, and it's not just yourself as well, from your family, and not even just you and Jake, but your sister Sophie's involved in the game as well. When we were saying off stream about that she's at Sheffield United now, but she's done quite a lot for herself in the game as well, hasn't she?
Yeah, my sister didn't have a chance really. As a kid, she was kind of with me and my brother and my dad. She was dragged along to football. She was made to go in goal or cross it in or do whatever from an early age. So yeah, she's probably had the best career out of all of us, to be fair. I mean, she's represented England up to under 23 levels. She's done what no male can do, and she's had a kid and still playing football.
Yeah.
That's a hell of an achievement. So yeah,
and even you said about her getting up to the England 23s as well, but even yourself, you were up to the England 19s or England 20s, weren't you? So
yeah, I made a couple of squads for 21s and played in a game against Italy at Hull's ground. So yeah, it's so close yet so far.
Yeah.
I still tell my little one that, and I don't think she quite either believes me or gets it. So yeah, it's one to tell the grandkids, I think. But yeah, that was an unbelievable experience when you represent your country at any age. And again, I was quite lucky. I did it 16s, 17s, 19s, and there's a couple of outings for the 21s. So yeah, that's a hell of an achievement.
And tell us a little bit about your business as well, that you're going into the football business, the player centre. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we set it up, me and Tristan Lewis, who I worked with at Maidstone and met, and we just had an idea that we wanted to kind of set up our own business, coaching business, but not just coaching, it's mentoring. I mean, the amount of players I've played with who come and ask questions, or should I do this, or can you help me with that, or what do you think of this? And I enjoy doing that, but then you start putting two and two together and think, well, I enjoy doing that. There's a niche for it. There's a market for it. So why don't we turn it into a business? So it's hard to put a finger on it. We've got all different aspects. We do coaching. Well, we did do soccer courses and camps for pros, and we went to Turkey with 14 young academy players in the summer and did a training camp. Well, the summer before when we were allowed to leave the country. We host different varying showcase games that players have come and played in and signed for under 23s league teams or national league teams. So yeah, at the minute it's all on hold a little bit, as everything is, but there's things still bubbling along in the background, and we've got links to a couple of academies in Spain at the minute that, again, we were just gaining a bit of momentum, but as is life at the minute, it's been put on the back burner a bit. But yeah, if anyone wants to check out, thanks for plugging it, playercentre.co.uk.
That's all right, no problem at all. So go and check that out. Yeah, definitely be worth looking at.
Yeah. No, it's just nice to have something else to concentrate on and to put my efforts in, and it's nice that it's our own and we built it from scratch, and we're confident that it'll get there with time and effort.
Absolutely, and I know it will. Just for the fact that you're dedicated to everything you do, so 100% you'll get there. So as part of the player centre, you said about it there, you do the coaching as well, one-on-one coaching. So what sort of advice would you give to sort of up-and-coming coaches? As a friend of mine, for example, Russ is in the chat there as well, good friends with him as well, is Jordan, Essex coach, won the Essex Coach of the Year not too long ago. I think it was 2 years ago now. What advice would you give to someone like him who's kind of, trying to make a little bit of a name for himself?
I think, again, one-to-one coaching is different from kind of team coaching. From a team coach point of view, I've learned that it's a lot about, like we've just touched on, a lot about learning about the player, what gets that player going on a Saturday, what does he need an arm around the shoulder, does he need a livener, or does he need to be told all the time, or can you just leave him to his own devices? So a lot of it is kind of figuring players out what they need, because not every player is the same. Let me tell you, in a squad of 20, there's probably more than 20 personalities, because some will have more than one. So it has been a good coach in a team environment is a lot about knowing what players need to get the best out of them on a Saturday. Along with, you've got to be very detailed and committed. Coaching is not something you can do successfully half-hearted, because it's a bit like football. If you only put half the effort in, you won't fluke coaching. You can't go out on a Saturday and fluke a 3-0 away win. You can't go out and fluke a 1-0 win at home when you've played with 10 men. That comes from dedication and practice and sticking to your own principles. Whereas one-to-one coaching, what I found is you see a lot of kind of Instagram coaches and that now, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's good that these younger people are wanting to get out and do their one-to-one bits, but we see it at Chelsea that you get a centre-half who's doing ridiculous skills for an hour in a one-to-one session. You think, well, no, that's...
And actually, what I will say is Jordan's actually going to have a bit of a link in with Chelsea as well. He's got a link with Chelsea where he's basically going to be going out in the Essex area to kind of get Chelsea, known and get people involved with Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah, so it's great. It's just knowing what a player wants, what a player needs. There's no, even the top ones, Guardiola, Klopp's, they just know what a player needs. They know what gets them motivated, and they have their own principles and they stick to it. I've played for coaches who you play one game in one manner, and then you play the next game because you get beaten. They totally change, and you don't earn respect and you don't develop yourself by doing that, because players won't have a clue from one day to the next what you're like. So you have to stick to your principles and just keep believing that eventually it will turn around if it's not going well, or make sure if it is going well that you keep learning and keep improving.
And Russ has put a question in as well in regards to the football side of it. So what advice would you give to any sort of young boy or girl that wants to get into playing football?
Hard work always beats talent. If talent doesn't work hard, it's a saying that I've always gone by and I use and say it. Might not use that cringy saying, but it's a principle that my teams will always stick to, that you can have the most talented players. You can be the best 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old player, but if you don't work hard and dedicate your life to it for the rest of your career, then it'll be short-lived. So again, I listen to a podcast called, it's got Jake Humphries, High Performance or whatever.
Okay, yeah, Jake's one, yeah. Uh-huh.
They ask a manager or whoever comes on what principles they stick to, and you can guarantee that hard work is always within their number one or two. Hard work gets you where you want to be. Again, not by luck, not by fluke. You need a little bit of that on the side, but the core value of any successful player or person is hard work and dedication.
And what type of manager or coach would you say that you were? What's your kind of style?
You're probably asking the wrong person. Don't ask any of my players whatever. I'm like I was as a. Sorry, that just went off then.
It's all right, mate. That's fine.
Hello. Sorry, can you see me?
Yeah, I've got you, mate. Yeah.
Oh, I can't see the picture. Yeah, so I'm probably coach similar to how I play, but a little bit calmer. I demand the best standards of people, but I also want people, like I said, to enjoy what they do. At times in my career, I didn't enjoy what I was doing, and during those times, I didn't perform very well. So again, a lot of what you do as a coach is provide an environment where players can come in and they look forward to coming in and working because they know they're going to develop. But again, it's all about learning what your players need to get the best out of them. Like I said, it's no good treating 1 to 11 the same way because that's not how a team works. You've got to learn each individual's character traits and you treat them all differently. Because, like I said, if you treat 1 to 11 the same, then that's not a team. Because I can guarantee you that they won't all have the same personality. But
yeah, definitely, yeah.
I demand standards, and those standards never drop. But another mantra that I use, and it's a little bit different, that we use, that if you reward us by winning a game, we'll reward you. So if you win on a Saturday and a Tuesday, you might get Thursday off, or little things like that. It's always nice to give. I learned that if you had a little carrot as a player, it gives you a little bit more incentive.
That's fair enough, and I agree with that as well. Every player is going to be different, based around sort of different development factors. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been an eye opener for me because maybe as a footballer and as a captain at times you're the same to everybody, but when you go on the other side of the fence, you've got to realise that I'm sat here talking to you, but I could go talk to somebody else in a minute, and you can't have the same conversation or the same way with them. You've got to learn to adapt, and that's another word that I've been taught is adaptability. You've got to be able to adapt to be a top coach, top manager.
And Russ is getting involved again, saying, "What manager in the current game would you have liked to play for? Bielsa or?"
No, they have to run too much, I think. I would love to go. I mean, again, I was unfortunate. I was down a bit. Was going to go and watch a couple of training sessions that he put on. Was going to put on for Leeds, but before then, all this happened, so people weren't allowed in. So, which was a bit gutting. But the way he gets his teams playing is, I mean, it's good to watch, but it's horrible to watch as a fan at times. But from a neutral point of view, I'm sure it's brilliant. But for me, the manager that I would like to play at the minute would be Pep Guardiola. Just because of his intensity and the way he is. And I've read his books, watched the programmes, but not just that. I've done a lot of kind of research into him, and he doesn't try and reinvent the wheel. He's clever and he's intelligent, but he's a lot about motivation and demanding standards. And don't get me wrong, it helps when you've got the players that he's got and the budget, but he for me is the modern day coach that
Laura just called it murder ball.
Yes, I always thought murder ball was different because we had a murder ball at Stevenage under Graham, and basically it was 11v11 in the 18-yard box, and it was literally the full 11v11 in the side 18-yard box, and that's what we used to call murder ball. But obviously, it's got a different name under. So yeah, that's
madness. Yeah. So let's touch on. Well, what we're going to touch on next, actually, probably not an awful lot more now. If you weren't in football, what sort of career path would you have gone down?
Honestly, I've never done anything but football. Like I said, from 8, 9, I was in School of Excellencies, academies where you train in 2 nights a week, playing on a Saturday, and then when you get 13, 14, you play. You train Tuesday, Thursday, train on Saturday, play on a Sunday. So. Honestly, I wouldn't. It'd have to be something manual. I couldn't sit in an office in front of a computer or anything like that all day. I'd have to be out lugging bricks or putting fire, something like that. Yeah.
Fair enough. So going back to football anyway, how would you get yourself sort of motivated and up for those big games, whether that be a playoff game, a derby game, or just a big game in general?
I was kind of the opposite. I need to be brought down a little bit at times. There's some players who need motivating. Some players have that real nervous energy or nervousness. And I used to, probably younger age, I used to get 2 up for a game. I'd be like a dog on heat, ready to go for the kickoff. But
yeah.
There was just I always wanted to kind of. Every football player does this, but I always wanted to achieve. I always wanted to win things. I always signed for clubs because I felt they could achieve. It never worked out. It doesn't work out like that. But I never just signed for clubs because it was a nice club. I signed for clubs who were ambitious, who wanted to do well. So I used to be quite selfish that when I went out at the start of a game, we had to win for my own personal good because I want to be successful. Like I say, it doesn't always work like that. I mean, I dare say over my career, I've lost probably more games than won. But my gut feeling and how I was that I always wanted to win because it was going to be good for where I wanted to go, which is selfish in a way, but it's not, because if you're winning and the team wins, it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely, of course it is. Of course it is.
But yeah, I obviously my disciplinary record will say that sometimes I needed to be calmed down a little bit, not motivated. So I was the other way. I was the other way.
So let's have a little look at this one here. Now, this was actually a really good question that's been put to a couple of the players now by somebody that I'm in good contact with, and she's asked this one, Giggsy. She says, "What advice would you give to your younger self, knowing what you know now about the direction that your career would go in?"
Oh, what a question! Be more patient, I think. One reason why I had quite a few clubs is I never liked not playing. So if a manager came to me, a new manager, and said, "Look, you're not in the plans," I wouldn't really hang around. I'd be on the phone trying to find the next place where I was going to go and play.
Yeah.
Which again was just because I wanted to play football, not because I was ever chasing any money. I mean, the amount of years contracts I gave up just to go and play football again and being someone's starting 11 was massive. But I would say be more patient and don't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows.
A few have said that, very similar. Yeah.
I've had, like I say, I've had 2.5 career-threatening injuries, one illness that I managed to battle back from. That if I can do that, then I probably could have dealt better with other things, getting a bit carried away at times, especially having the start to my career that I had. But yeah, I think don't get too highs with the highs and low with the lows, because I was quite an emotional player, shall we say, put it that way. And sometimes it was good for me, sometimes it was my downfall. But that and be patient would be my two main things. All
right, well, that's probably bar this next one. This is probably going to be the last question, really. So, how do you think Leeds will get on in the Premier League? Because you mentioned a little bit about it beforehand, and they are a good side to watch and very attacking, and they are a bit open at the back, though, aren't they, as well? So. Yeah,
I think if we finish where we are now, which I think is 12th, I'd have snapped your hand off for that at the start of the season. We've signed a couple of players, but we didn't strengthen as much as probably what people thought we were gonna. But
yeah,
for what he's got out of that group of players, if you'd have told me we'd finish 12th in the Premier League and be reasonably comfortable, then that's a good start. But yeah, for Leeds to ever get back to that Champions League, Euro, or UEFA Cup, whatever it was called back then, there's got to be a little bit of a rebuild. But I'll take 12th right now, but we'll win 5-1 one week and lose 6-2 the next week. So it'll be enjoyable for everybody else to watch, but it'll be quite up and down for us supporters.
And who's your favourite current Leeds player in the squad right
now? Well, I'm a bit biased, but my mates are Liam Cooper, obviously captain, would probably be my favourite one because he sorts me tickets out now and again. But yeah, 2 because I know him. But I think for how I would have wanted to play, and for everyone, I think you can't look past Calvin Phillips at the minute. I mean, he's probably going to be the first Leeds player to go to a national tournament with England.
Yeah, they've got to take him to the Euros, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he would be. I think he's probably the only player at the minute that a top 8 team would come and buy, as well as all the other players have done. I don't think a top 8 team would particularly come and buy a Leeds player apart from Calvin Phillips, I'll be honest.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up there, actually, Si. So thank you very much for taking, about an hour and 10 minutes it's turned out to be from your evening here to do this. And yeah, so, have you got any last little messages you want to say in regards to your time at Stevenage, or, just a little message to the Stevenage fans, of course, who, like me, are watching from home at the moment? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thank you for, like I said earlier, it's nice that people remember you. So, yeah, it was nice to get asked. So thanks for having me. But, just to fans out there, just please be patient and keep supporting your team and your club in any way you can. It's difficult. All clubs are trying different things to keep fans engaged, but don't lose the faith, don't lose the hope, and remember those times when you go into games and meeting your mates and spilling your coffees when your team scores and swearing under your breath when your team concedes. So those days, those good days will be back soon. So keep the faith, and hopefully Revs and Ash and the boys can kick on, and like I said, get that club back to kind of the top ends of the League Two, and you never know, back to League One, because I think they've been struggling down the bottom ends for too many seasons.
And just a final point as well. What's your situation regarding Havant right now? Is there still football with Havant, or has it been suspended?
No, we're still going at the minute. We've got Notts County in the FA Trophy in a week, just over a week's time. So at the minute, we're still plodding along. But I'm sure by the time even this interview goes out, it could have changed. So I'm on my phone most days. We're hearing different things. But at the minute, we're preparing to play a game against Notts County in a week or so. So fingers crossed it remains the case that we can still keep doing what we love. And
just finally, how's Deeks getting on? How's Rory getting on?
Yeah, Rory's good as gold. Like I said earlier, this is the 5th club I've been at with him now. I still can't shake him off. So Deeks is good as gold. He's had a bit of personal tragedy recently, so I'm sure everybody's thoughts will be with him. But yeah, Rory's good as gold, and he's been doing really well at the minute. He scored a goal the other day, and as he was at Stevenage, he's still playing in every position going on the pitch. So.
And Jordan's just put in a final question here, last minute. Who's your favourite player at Stevenage? So if you know anything about the guys that are there now, and I'll touch on the fact that we carried on to bring the academy through as well. Arthur Ryanton's involved with that section now, the first team, and Jack Smith as well. 2 very young midfielders, but very good midfielders at that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the younger ages, obviously, we get to see quite a bit with working at Chelsea. There's some decent players coming through. Let me tell you, at those ages. So I mean, the academy has to be a little football factory for those clubs, because the smaller clubs can't go out and spend lots of money all the time on players. It's just not plausible. So if your academy is producing players, then that's a good place to be in. But I'll give it Petty. It'll make Petty's day if I say he's still a favourite player. I know I was his favourite player. He used to tell me all the time. But Petty's my favourite, and then obviously Ash is my second favourite, even though he's not playing. But we still get on well.
All right, mate. Well, we'll leave it there. So thank you for taking some time out this evening, and I'm going to go and see what's happening with this Wickham and Spurs game, because that's on now, the FA Cup tie, and see how Darius is getting on.
Yeah, he's done ever so well as well, hasn't he? Pleased for him.
Cheers, Si. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thanks for having me. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, Si. Thank you. See ya, mate.